Is this then the music destined to replace the Beatles? Are the melodic harmonies, poetic lyrics, and soulful rhythms of today to be swept into the archives, totally undermined by a psychotic sweep of sound and vision such as this, displayed by the Pink Floyd? Large pockets of enthusiasts from all over the country are determined that it shall, despite the powerful opposition of the majority of leading disc jockeys.
Welcome back to Sound Opinions. That is Syd Barrett's Clock Factory. We are talking Pink Floyd. It's XRT. I'm Greg Cott.
I'm Jim DeRogatis. And you were right, Greg. I mean, think about the way that mirrors time on Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
In exactly, 6 years earlier.
So if you really wanted to be mean about it, you could say that the remaining members of Pink Floyd have been ripping off Syd Barrett or
I did say
inspired
that.
by him.
I said almost that exactly
Since the beginning.
To a member of Pink Floyd. Here's me talking to Nick Mason in 1995. I want to set this up. The last time Floyd played here was at Soldier Field.
Yes.
Right? I love Pink Floyd. I don't know if you've gotten this yet. I know you love Pink Floyd. We love Pink Floyd.
Right.
This is one of my favorite bands of all time. I was so disappointed in that show.
Yeah.
Here was this band just going through the
Me
motions.
too.
Right? So I wrote this scathing review, and I took a sort of low shot and said that they looked like pot-bellied millionaires in their Banana Republic jeans. So, 2 months later, I get a note at the Sun-Times that says, Jim DeRogatis, Chicago, USA. That's all it's addressed, right? And it's typewritten impeccably, no typos, by Nick Mason, who's like, "Dear Jim, apparently you have a problem with someone's pot belly. Well, I'm 10 pound X, he gave the English weight, and,
yeah.
and I maybe I could stand to lose a few, but, I'm sorry you were disappointed in our show of bells and whistles and lights." and I just, wow, I got a letter from Nick Mason. He's calling me a jerk, but I got a letter from Nick Mason. So, I wrote to Columbia Records, and I was working on this book at the time, and I said, look, I really want to interview this guy, because, he's a hero of mine, and I want to talk to him about why I dislike that concert and why I've loved everything else they've ever done, And we did this great interview where now 98% of the time, you and I have talked about this, you hit the play button on the Rockstar. You can say, "What's the weather like?" And they'll say, "I have a new album that's out in stores now." Right? You never really have a conversation.
Right.
The times that you have had a, interesting, insightful, intellectual conversation with a rock star, you can count on one hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mason is that kind of guy. What a smart, he's only a drummer, but what a smart and thoughtful guy. So I
not really a musician, he's a drummer.
I threw the Barrett stuff at him, and I thought what he had to say was absolutely fascinating. Let's play track 5 on that Mason thing, Matt.
You could make a case, and I think it's wrong. I think if you really look at Roger's lyrics, he's really talking about different issues, individualism and so on. But you could make a case that all of Floyd's best stuff was inspired by this guy who parted ways with you after the first couple of years. The themes of lunacy that run through Dark Side, and the themes of shutting yourself off from the world and the wall, and even little stuff here and there like If on Adam Hart Mother. I mean, if somebody were to say, you guys milked the pal who went crazy idea for all it was worth.
Well, I wouldn't sort of go along with that. I feel that Syd had sort of surfaced now and again, and certainly Shine On was related to that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. I think Shine On in particular got sort of switched to that after Syd made his appearance. It was sort of quite often the focus of the record. I think until the sort of later things, like The Wall or Final Cut, the focus of the record was never engineered at the beginning of the recording. Something like Dark Side was not devised in toto and then made.
Mm-hmm.
We started work on it and then started sort of kicking it into the shape it then took.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
Sure.
That it wasn't sort of, it wasn't, the catalyst was not the story that it then became.
Right.
And I feel that although there is Syd plays an important part, I think particularly with Roger's writing, a lot more of it is personal rather than about Syd.
Mm-hmm.
And the madness and so on is much more to do with Roger's vision of madness than the vision of Syd's madness.
Yeah. So there's Nick Mason. Obviously, I kind of disagree with him. You know, he's saying that like Syd would pop up and sometimes songs would be about something else, and then they'd start to think that they were about Syd. Mm-hmm. And obviously he mentions Dark Side and Shine On, which we're going to get to. But I don't know. Here's a song called If, which is from that mid-period Floyd. The kind of psychedelic jam band Floyd, which I would say lasted from Saucer Full of Secrets up to Dark Side of the Moon. It's a rare Waters lyrical acoustic song from Adam Hart Mother, where he's really talking about, if I go insane, please don't let them stick their wires in my brain. Why is he thinking about this? Obviously because they have a friend and founding member of the band who is now at this point locked up.
Right.
You know,
he's been on their minds. Absolutely.
And this is the first time, and this I think starts to pave